Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, May 31st, 2022. This is a special meeting of the Commissioners of the City of Rehoboth Beach. We are live in City Hall, Commissioners Room, second floor. Thank you for being here. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 9:03 a.m. Thank you for being here. With that, I want to start off with roll call. Commissioner Tony Sharp.
Here.
Commissioner Jay Legree.
Here.
Commissioner Ed Stranowski.
Here.
Commissioner Susan Gay.
Here.
Commissioner Patrick Gossett.
Here.
Commissioner Tim Bennett.
Here.
Mayor Stan Mills. We have a full complement of the mayor and commissioners, so we are able to formally conduct business today because we have a quorum here today. Thank you all for being here. I don't have any correspondence identified as coming in specific to this particular meeting. And I'd like to share with everybody that the purpose of this special meeting today is to continue to review the comprehensive development plan referred to the mayor and commissioners by the Planning Commission on May 13th, 2022, in order to prepare for consideration of adoption by the mayor and commissioners on or before July 29th. And as you can see, there's a second option for the meeting. If we get that far, is consider adopting a resolution setting a public hearing for the purpose of receiving public comment on the draft CDP. I would like to thank Lauren for working all through the weekend, and she did a fantastic job. I will say that this is probably a record for the city and the number of reams of paper run through the Xerox machine to help everybody get ready for this. But I think it was necessary to do, and everybody was able, hopefully, to do some of their homework over the weekend. I would like to indicate that while I indicated the possibility of adopting a resolution to go to public hearing, I think that's still in the realm, but I would like to give a little preface to today's meeting as such that I think that the amount of work that Lauren and Wallace and Montgomery had to do this last week was a little bit overwhelming. And I know it was overwhelming because she worked all weekend on it. And unfortunately, we didn't get things, nothing against her, Wallace Montgomery, but we didn't get things in the time frame I thought we might get it, such that we could embed it as support documents in the agenda. And that's frustrated me a little bit because we have 0 support documents in the agenda for the public to look at. To compensate for that, what I'd like to do today is, as we talk about each document, we'll make sure it's on the screen so that everybody can see it. And we will also embed it as a support document after the fact in the agenda so the public can get to those things. And again, back to that, was this perhaps overwhelming amount of information for updating in the last week by Lauren. It's also almost overwhelming to read each version and be prepared and have studied it and memorized it. So I'd like to offer just now for consideration as we talk today, because we've got 2 meetings scheduled today, 9 to whenever we finish, and then another one at 2 o'clock if we choose to go that route. But I'd just like to have on the back of our minds that we could also have another meeting on June 7th. I would need to post it today, and that is maybe particularly useful if we don't get through everything today. It also may be particularly useful if there are lots of little minutia things that we want to address on that last day. I proposed that if we vote to go to public resolution or adopt a public resolution to go to public hearing, that we could consider the date of Tuesday, June 28th. And if so, we may very well want to adopt that resolution to do that today so that it's on everybody's calendar. And so that Ann, city clerk, can publish it well enough in advance because she needs 21 to 28 days to publish. And then with having that on the books, if we still choose to add that June 7th extra meeting, then so be it. That's fine. That doesn't hurt us establishing the public hearing date ahead of time. So let's just keep that in mind. So I know we've got a lot on this. My preference always, of course, is to start at the beginning and go page by page. I think what we'll do is we'll go to Lauren and say, Lauren, can you give us some guidance on what you would like to do and the order and the sequence you'd like to go through everything? I, in particular, would like to focus on anything brand new, which would be updating maps and et cetera. But I'd also like to update and have us review any updated content submitted by commissioners that has yet to pass in front of all our collective eyes. There's the different wording that you've gotten on the straw initiative and stuff like that. Again, to give us all that opportunity to critique it or make suggestions or give feedback. So, Lauren, if you will, we'll turn it over to you to see which way you want to go. And again, as we talk about certain sections, we'll do our best to put it on the screen.
Sure. This section, which is what we call the upfronts, the changes made here were the addition of Susan Gay to the Planning Commission as a prior member of the Planning Commission while the CDP was taking place, and then updates to the table of contents to reflect new page numbers and whatnot. So there really isn't substantive changes to this section. To note, in the print document, we did account for an extra page for the letter that the mayor asked the city solicitor to draft on their behalf. So that page placeholder has been inserted there, but nothing else in this section is really of note.
Lauren, if you don't mind, let me just insert in there for members of the public watching that what we're looking at today is a compilation of the entire CDP updated called version 8 in redline version. And the redline version is actually stems from updating version 7. So anybody that has version 7 there would have an older version. And again, we'll get version 8 with the red line and other versions embedded in the agenda after this meeting. Thank you.
And I guess moving, would doing these in chapter order make the most sense?
Okay. Yeah, I think so. So, Evan, you're the one with control of the mouse. As you scroll down, Lauren, just tell us where to stop, or just Evan, just stop on the next one. I think it is valuable for us to each approve all of the edits, including some wordsmithing, and then hopefully we don't have to come back to them.
The next chapter is chapter 1, the executive summary and vision. Here, the first change is on page 1-4, where we just updated the vision for neighborhoods to reflect the new 7 distinct neighborhoods, which just reflects the changes to the map that we will discuss in a moment. And then we just added a note referencing that the neighborhood locations and descriptions can be found later on in chapter 3 on page 3-9.
Thank you. And you also updated from 6 to 7 distinct neighborhoods in there. Would you prefer that we just, if we have any comments, we go ahead and speak up at that time? Thank you.
And then the rest of the changes to this chapter relate to the goals and action items that are for the various other chapters. So perhaps it would make more sense to discuss these in relation to the actual topic chapters, just because they align with those. We did go back and compare all of these goals and action items against all of them in each of the topic chapters, against all of them in Chapter 8. So they all should be exact. So barring some odd quirk, they should all be exactly the same.
So that's coordinating executive summary with Chapter 8 implementation with,
Chapters 3 through 7, the actual
Okay.
topic discussion chapters where these more of the discussion on these various topics are found.
very good, thank you.
So if we move,
That actually finish Chapter 1?
yes.
Okay.
Keep telling us what pages you're on.
Yes, I will. So now if we're moving into Chapter 2, which is titled Introduction to the Planning Process. Let's see. Changes to this chapter begin on page 2-6. The fourth paragraph where we just updated the name of the Chamber of Commerce to reflect that it's the Dewey Beach, the Rehoboth Beach Dewey Beach Chamber of Commerce, and also to add the number 3 to the Save Our Lakes Alliance 3. So made those minor changes. Let's see. On page 2-9, under the mapping section, the very last line, we changed the title from city attorney to city solicitor just to reflect the correct nomenclature that is used. And those appear to be the only changes that we made in Chapter 2. Chapter 3 is the chapter on community character and profile. The first change was on page 3-2, where we updated the acronym CPD to correctly reference CDP, which stands for Comprehensive Development Plan. Beginning on 3-7, this isn't a really a change. It's just some formatting. We changed the layout of the way that some of these the house photos and descriptions were provided, just to make them appear a little bit more even on the page, but no change to the actual descriptions were made.
Well, I noticed in doing that, you've gotten out of alphabetical order. I don't know, to the other commissioners, is there value into keeping it in alphabetical order? Because what happens is, I guess you're sequenced it there such that 2C, Cape Cod, and Craftsman go to the end.
That was just done for spacing reasons, you said?
It was on the original, or I guess the prior format. The first page had, I guess the second of the 3 pages that had these architectural descriptions had, I think, 5 descriptions, and they were all sort of scrunched up, and then there were larger gaps on the 3rd page. So we thought that just switching them around provided a little bit more room, so they looked a little bit more uniform. That was really the only reason that we made that change.
But now looks like there's a big gap on 3.8. Well, and I guess on 3.7 too. Or those would move up?
If you look at it,
They'll move around, I guess, once the tracking is out. Oh, okay, yeah.
correct, if you,
Okay.
if
Yeah, I didn't look at
you
the
look at them on the
Final.
the final
Okay,
version,
I
this
get
is
it.
the,
Yep,
they're much
Okay.
more uniform.
Yeah. I get it, okay.
I mean, I prefer alphabetical, but I'm also,
Well-
that's minimal, and if it causes havoc, I'm fine with leaving it as is. Anybody else?
The new format is better represented visually, so I would stay with that.
Very good. So we're going to leave it alone? Very good.
They're well labeled.
The next area of change begins on page 3-10, and this, or I should say, when I am calling out these page numbers, these are in the track changes version, but if you would like them in the clean copy version, I can also provide those as well. Just let me know what your preference is. So this is the section on the neighborhoods. So here we inserted this general paragraph on neighborhoods, created and inserted this overview map of neighborhoods in Rehoboth Beach, and then in the subsequent pages provided one page for each of the identified neighborhoods with a description and a map, both an aerial map and more of a parcel based map with a sort of a gray outline of the building footprint for each of those 7 neighborhoods that have been identified. So starting on page 310, this is just the general overview of the neighborhood and the neighborhood overview map.
I have a question. By the way, I just want to give a general comment. Overall, these maps are phenomenal. Great job since last time in translating what we wanted you to do. Appreciate that. On this line, neighborhoods, just scroll back up a little bit. The city has historically consisted of 7 distinct neighborhoods described and depicted on the following pages. Is that true? And reason why I'm asking that, and maybe it's no big deal, but I thought that the city historically has consisted of 6 distinct neighborhoods, and we are making that change to 7 per this CDP.
Yeah. However, if we start talking about form code, they have really lined them up well. This is my personal comment.
North Rehoboth, right? Is that the additional one?
Well, all these neighborhoods are a little different than what happened in the MPO, right? So again, I don't know what you want to say. The city has historically had 6 distinct neighborhoods as described in the MPO. However, we're making that change. That, again, maybe it's no big deal. You know, I'm at the point where we're on the last legs. I'm going to nitpick the heck out of it, but
Is it just a matter of removing the word historically and saying that the city is 7 distinct neighborhoods?
there you go.
Right.
There you go. And I'm fine with that change. Just, how many of us are going to be around for the next CDP and be able to say, well, when we did this one.
That's what we would sound like if we were around for the next.
Well,
Into the maps now, or questions on maps or what have you, or?
you want to just keep going down as we get to each one, Patrick? Go ahead, Lauren.
Do you have a comment on what is figure 3.2, or?
I guess if we want to go by the general map, It just reflected questions on the individual neighborhood map. So if you want to just stick on the large one. or-
Let's, yeah, as each map is put on the screen following the PDF version, then I think that's the appropriate time to bring them up. So are there any comments on this particular overall neighborhood map? Appears not. Okay, Lauren, next.
All right, on page 3-11, this is the description and maps of the downtown neighborhood. And you'll note here that the downtown is in the top figure, or the top part of the figure, it's shown in blue. And then for each area where the original city boundary was applicable, we have shown that in that black dotted line along with the call out.
My only question or raise it here, if you look at in that neighborhood where you see the word Rehoboth Avenue, just below AV there, coming down, there seems to be 4 or 5 homes represented there that are downtown, but they're residential. And I don't think that those need to be included in the downtown neighborhood, since they're really country club estates.
Yeah, I would say the same thing.
I had a conversation with John Dewey subsequent to the conversation that I'd had with you, and
Yeah.
he had provided additional information saying that in his research with the deed to his property, that those are not part of country club
Right,
estates.
and I suspected that's where it came from, and he is indeed one of those 4 lots there. But in my mind, so this doesn't match zoning code either. It's a neighborhood description, and I don't think the fact that it's in the deed, and that's a historical reference for sure that it's not in the deed, but they're still part of country. In other words, they're still residential. They're not part of downtown, and so I think they should be included in country club. I think the fact that it's not in the deed is analogous to the fact that the zoning does not match up as well. But these are neighborhood considerations, and where it says, country club is all residential, those are houses within, and so I would want to see the line moved up to the corner property.
You said John Dewey indicated it should be as shown.
Well, he just said it's not part of I guess what he told you is his research showed that it's not part of the deed, that they're not officially in the Property Owners Association for Country Club.
Correct, and that was part of when
Right.
we were trying to figure out the correct boundaries, I guess, for some of these neighborhoods. That had been part of the discussion directly related to country club estates, was that those four properties perhaps should not be included, but I'll leave that.
It's probably optimum that we pick one or the other. However, I'm also amenable to saying, for instance, leave it as it is and ask the public during the public session, public hearing, what their opinion is. I don't know. Or is there any further research that could be done to
I don't think it's a research issue, because it depends on the usage of the map. In other words, it's not part of a Property Owners Association. I think we've established that. As I said before, the zoning doesn't match up either. It's a neighborhood description, and I guess I'm a little troubled by the fact that 4 residential properties would be subsumed under Rehoboth Avenue. What would happen to them in the future? Is that an argument to be made that, let's turn that into commercial? So I just think since they are residential, and there's one on the other side as well, just one small lot on State Road on the other side, that I just thought it ought to reflect.
We just make them purple and call it South Rehoboth.
But I think they consider themselves
They do
country
consider
club.
themselves country club, even though they're not deeded. That's true, yeah.
Well, considering this is a neighborhood map, just like you said, it's not a part of a zoning map. It's not land use map. I'm comfortable either way, but I think probably tilting toward including it as part of a country club estates. Yes, it's not part of the country club estates property owner association, right? But it is within that neighborhood that happens to be called country club estates.
Right. In fact, come to think of it, the area that's contiguous with the blue, that's right where the Country Club Estates wording is, that's Scarborough Village, and it's not part of the Property Owners Association either, nor are the 3 or 4 houses to the left of it on Country Club Drive. I know because I know the person that lives in one of them is not technically in. So there are other, it is not an exact match with the Property Owners Association. It is truly a neighborhood, configuration, so.
So I'm hearing a minor theme here to tilting toward including those 4 properties in country club estates. Is there any objection to that, or?
But isn't that isn't that the discussion we had 3 meetings ago where we thought, for simplicity, Grove and Canal, we could call that Country Club Estates neighborhood? And I think people were adamant about that, not doing that.
Not doing what? We are calling with the Grove and Canal part, Grove and Canal.
No, we were going to collapse them into Country Club
Oh,
Estates
yeah,
neighborhood.
I'm not suggesting that at all.
No, but what I'm saying is that we've changed our minds. That initially I thought the whole point of Country Club Estates was that it was purely Country Club Estates. That was the discussion, that we weren't going to add anything into it.
No, in my mind, this is a tweak. In other words, it's never lined up exactly with the Property Owners Association because it includes Scarborough Village, and it includes some houses on the other side that aren't in the PO. This is just a little minor tweak. I don't think it's changing anything.
But Grove and Canal, I mean, not to repeat this, but that's always been a separate neighborhood. I don't remember ever having the discussion of, combining those.
So are you saying that if the public that owns those properties were looking at this, they would be fine if it was labeled Country Club because that's how they refer to themselves? I'm just asking.
And I may check in with John Dewey to see about his, but I don't think it's an issue.
I just had Evan scroll up to page 315, just so we could get a wider look of the entirety of the Country Club Estates. Again, as Commissioner Gay indicated, that not Newbold Square, what is this up here?
Scarborough Village.
Scarborough Village up here is included within Country Club Estates neighborhood, but is not part of the actual boundaries of the Country Club Property Owners Association. So again, it sounds like, unless anybody's changed mind, the consensus is to change those 4 lots to incorporate them, Lauren, into Country Club Estates Property Owners Association. We can go back, we'll scroll back to the downtown area. Is there any?
To the left of the Country Club Estates wording, is that little indent? I mean, that's part of that parcel on the
One of those lots is
corner.
also Country Club. One of those lots is specifically Country Club.
So that's one parcel, I believe.
Yes, it is, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah,
So,
so that's,
so that it's a,
Use the line slightly.
You're talking about the 330 Rehoboth Avenue double lot. Okay, so
Actually, a triple lot.
as depicted is fine.
No, there's, one of the lots there is part of Country Club. There are actually 2 on the
So
side
the
there.
residential lot would be,
Or half of the residential lot is Country Club. Not all of it, just part of it.
can I task you then with, if we're
I have it,
comfortable with
right,
that, task you with showing or drawing on your map exactly where that is, and for accuracy.
So I think, Lauren, all those lots are merged, but one of them it's a split zone lot, so there's partially some residential there and partially some commercial, and you want to draw the line where.
The way the county stuff was, it was, only one of them was Country Club. The other residential was not Country Club.
Okay.
So I wasn't gonna include that one.
Okay.
But part of it is. I have that stuff somewhere, so I can, does it matter that they're merged? If one of them is.
I don't think,
Country Club?
I mean, you know, they could at some point be separated, and you're trying to show, you're designating, like you said, this is you as commissioners designating the neighborhoods, and you can draw the line wherever you think it's appropriate.
Right.
It looks like on the zoning map, it follows along a straight line.
Right.
So if I just update that to continue, that's what,
Yeah, you could do that. That would be the simplest way to do it.
Anything else on 311, the downtown area? Okay.
.12 is the description and maps of the pines.
The only comment I have there, I think it looks fine, except that if you see Central Park, to the left, it says Park Street, and to the right is Park Avenue. So it should be Park Avenue on both sides of Central Park there. And not obviously, but these changes will carry through to all the maps, correct? Okay.
Right above the T in Cookman Street, you can put a big star there for the mayor's house. Anything else on 312, the Pines? Okay.
Commenting on the maps takes a little bit longer in this.
It's all right.
Okay. All right. Page 3-13 is North Rehoboth. Okay. 3-14 is Grove Canal. And then page 3-15 is Country Club Estates.
Obviously, we'd have that same change carry through on both maps on that page.
Schoolview.
Only we're going to get anybody in your neighborhood upset that we're combining that with School View. Your neighborhood didn't have a separate name to it, did it?
No, and every time I describe where I live, it's always Schoolview.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Some people used to call it Truett Estates, but that's very, very few and far between. So we operate as Schoolview, I believe.
3-17 is South Rehoboth.
Only question there, and I know this is based on the zoning map, but those very south lots that extend towards England there, should that be represented that way, or?
Those are like you mentioned, they're based on the parcel layers.
I just look at from,
That queen, Patrick, you're referring
Yeah.
to the queen that extends out to the ocean. And Lauren, are you saying that that is based on the same rationale for all the other eastern boundaries of the lots there?
So for all of the maps that we have used, except for the zoning map, we have used the parcel layer as a base layer to develop those maps. So that is what that data source is showing as the official boundary. Which, if you look, some of the maps will show that the beach is in a parcel, or the city boundary goes out into the ocean, for example. So that's why it shows up that way.
parcel data or the county parcel data?
County.
Okay.
County.
Based on the county, do we have a general disclaimer in here? We put it on the zoning map, or maybe not. Is there a general disclaimer that says we're using county stuff, that it doesn't always match up? I think in the first chapter, it talks about mapping and how some of the county maps are used that don't.
I don't remember
Exa-
that. If we don't, I think we should,
Mhm.
because it always comes down to kind of he said, she said.
Right. Right. I can look for that.
I should say all of the maps, except for these, have data sources listed. So all of the ones that are created to be these 11 by 17s, they all have this listing of data sources. So they all reference that the parcels are per Sussex County, and the month and year or year of the major data sources or data layers that were used to create them.
Wondering if we should have some sort of a disclaimer that says that while we're using the county's maps, we don't necessarily adopt their maps as proper property boundaries, you know, something like that, just because I get concerned when I see things stretching all the way to the ocean.
Would you, if everybody's amenable, would Glenn, you be tasked with that and work with Lauren on language content, but also where it would fit in, if it's on each map or individual maps?
Then in the track changes version, then pages 3-18 through 3-24 are just strike-throughs of the what had been in draft number 7.
The page 3-23, just making note of it. It's a strikeout area there, but it has that extra box in the bottom. So I wasn't sure whether that box should also be deleted also. 3-23, track changes.
I think that it, oddly enough, that actually ends up being the aerial map to the South Rehoboth
Yeah.
neighborhood page. So that should be an inset box on the
there.
bottom left
Okay.
on that
All right.
page. Just weird quirk of words, track changes.
Okay.
The next. The item that's on the screen there, that is on page 3-25, Architectural Design Manual, the header to that section, that I believe was just a matter of just the change with the preceding pages, so there's no actual change to that. It was just a formatting item. On page 3-27, the name of Appendix B was updated. In a few places, we had these shown as resources and references when it is actually references and resources, so just fix that to accurately reflect the correct title. So that comes up a few times. We just corrected that where that wasn't accurate. And then in a few places, well, for the remainder of this chapter, because we added those couple of neighborhood map figures, we've updated all of the remaining figure numbers. So anywhere there was another figure number, we have updated those both for the actual figure number and then any reference to them. On page 3-31, goal number 6, we added the language so that this goal now reads, promote and provide appropriate support for health, safety, the arts, and cultural and historic resources in the city. On page 3-32, under the Board of Commissioners, the second paragraph, again, we updated the name of the Chamber of Commerce to accurately reflect that it is the Dewey Beach Chamber of Commerce, and the name of the Senior Center to reflect that it is the Cape Henlopen Senior Center. Page 3-33, under the Parks and Shade Tree Commission, a few lines down, we just note that the phrase which seeks to balance a property owner's right to enjoy, so just changed the, added the A and changed the ownership there. And then on page 3-34, the description for the Personnel Committee was updated based on information that Commissioner Gossett provided, as well as just tweaking that slightly to keep it in line with some more of the, a little bit more conversational nature of some of the rest of the language that the other committees had versus just a straight copy paste out of the code or charter.
Yeah, this is something that I'd like to get together with Patrick as chair of the Personnel Committee and also city manager and myself to review. So we'll do that before the next version comes out.
Have a general, I'm working off the track changes versions, and I'm sorry, I don't have the other one to compare it to, but I noticed there are a few places, and I'm assuming this was fixed when the tracking is taken off, where, like at the bottom of 335 on the track changes version, it says beach patrol, but then the description is on the next page. Are all of those kind of misalignments corrected when it's printed? When it's, okay.
Yes, we've taken care of those, so there aren't any headers that are standalone at the bottom, and any places where there's just a lone line of text or something like that, we've tried to address the formatting to get rid of what they call the widows or orphans, things of that nature.
Okay. And the same goes for the public schools chart on 3-38?
Correct.
Okay, great.
Those are, or any areas where where it seems like there's extra spacing or things like that in the, we call the clean version, those should be taken care of. Speaking of the schools chart on page 3-38, that section, we added public to the name of that section, so that's now public education. And on page 3-40, action item J, here, the end of that, we struck at an appropriate level, so that action item now reads, continue to support community organizations within the city. On page 3-28, we increased the size of what is now figure 3-10, that historic property.
What's the page number again?
3-28. It is showing up as 3-28 for me, but it may have inadvertently skipped around because I was going through my track changes rather than page by page. My apologies. It was just increasing the size of the figure of the historic property catalog.
Are you on what is on our, whoops. Is this what page you're on here?
No, it should be 3-28.
28 is going backwards prior to the Personnel Committee page, for instance.
That may have just, again, been a quirk of the way that Word kept track of the track changes, but that was the last change in that chapter. So that was just increasing the size of that map, or that figure.
Go to 348, please. Or on this page and anywhere else, if there's a way to do a search, anywhere you see Camp Rehoboth, those two words together, camp is all capitals. And we've changed most of them, but in this chart, you'll see that in April, Camp Rehoboth twice is misspelled, if you will.
September, well.
Yep. So camp is always capitals.
Yeah, it's correct on the October block, but it's wrong in.
Yeah, and we've updated it. There we go.
And then that September listing for camp, it should be Camp Rehoboth Sun Fest, not Sundance.
They've changed the name recently. Yeah.
For now, that's what it is.
This year. Having the Sun Fest ending Sundance all in the same weekend.
Okay. Just leave it stat then, it's fine.
While we're waiting on the next thing, is it too late to mention the additional staff members that are here? Linda Travers is her first time, I think, operating the cameras, adding that to her resume. City Manager Evan Miller, Lauren Good of Wallace Montgomery, and City Solicitor Glenn. Thank you. Sorry I overlooked you. What's our next page here there, Lauren?
That is it for chapter 3, unless anyone has any other comments.
If not, we'll go to chapter 4, Land Use and Annexation.
Here on pages 4-7 and 4-8, we enlarged those two figures just to make them fill up as much of the full pages as possible, but made no changes to the figures themselves.
I don't have those maps in front of me. I know some others that we have yet to get to have been enlarged but are out of focus. It's like they were too small, retrieved too small and then enlarged. So I want to make sure that everything we have is crisp and in focus.
On page 4-10, the paragraph of text underneath table 4-1, we had just referenced a comprehensive plan, so we just updated that to correctly reference comprehensive development plan and put CDP in parentheses. On page 4-17, goal number 2, we struck the phrase "continue to work," and it now reads just "work with the neighboring municipalities, Sussex County, and the state on adjacent land development and annexations for coordination of services and infrastructure demands." On page 4-18, we added action item A, which reads "review and adopt an updated parcel-based official zoning map," which then renumbers the subsequent items to B through N.
I have a question on that. Review and adopt an updated parcel-based official zoning map. So I need help understanding that. So what I'm reading into there is that right now our official zoning map is not parcel-based, and we want to create it parcel-based. I want to make sure we have that capability to do that.
I thought the zoning map is parcel-based, isn't it? When we look at the map, doesn't it show individual parcels?
I think that it's more perhaps GIS parcel-based versus parcel-based.
I believe our database reflects blocks and lots. And the parcel numbers is an overlay on our data, but the county is the one that provides the parcel numbers. The city does not offer parcel numbers. We only offer block and lot numbers as the town was originally laid out, what have you. So I know that was being discussed and what have you, but could the language of stating an updated parcel-based official zoning map lead to the conclusion that that's the county data as opposed to the state or the city data?
So I'm reading two things there. One is update the zoning map, but when you update it, add parcel-based foundation to it. So again, I want to make sure that we are capable of doing that and that that's the right thing for us.
I think the intent for this was to update this so that it is integrated with a GIS system, so that it's more of a graphically capable document and can be updated and then used in analysis in that fashion, whether it is associated with the county's parcel database or something else. I know that's another item that is on the implementation list, is to continue those coordination efforts to take care of that, those outstanding items. But that was more the intent of that
Want to
action
make sure
item.
that there are no unintended consequences, that if we start adding parcels to a zoning map, that there's no problem there. All of a sudden, we're assigning zoning areas to county described parcels instead of ours.
Right. That's what could happen. I mean, the zoning map, it's clear within law that zoning maps they don't exist to establish property boundaries. So it would not be, if you do use the county's parcel data to create a zoning map, you will not be redefining property lines. But I do think you're coming to this critical point of, are you going to adopt, we've been reluctant, this city has been reluctant to adopt the county's data for a lot of different reasons. And we've demonstrated there were some inconsistencies between their data and our data through this process. Some, they were correct, others, the city was correct. So, excuse me, I understand the reluctance to adopt those maps. So your question's a good one. You know, it needs to be worded in a way that within 18 months, you're not forced to make a decision to either adopt the county's maps or not adopt the county's maps, I guess, is kind of the pressure point.
Is this really something that should be divided into two components here? One is update the official zoning map, and the second is create a parcel-based map that coordinates city lots with county lots or again, I don't want unintended consequences.
Right. And, you know, the planner is going to have a better thought on, you know, how this works from a planning perspective and how it works when land development applications come through. I have my legal concerns based upon inconsistencies that I've seen, but that might be different than, you know, the other issues that are created on the planning side if you don't adopt, you know, the county's maps in some respects. I mean, the county, be clear, the county is the official keeper of land records. So if we got into a dispute, if we got into a quiet title dispute, for example, the court would defer to the county's records, and it would be our burden to prove why the county's records are wrong. That would be the starting place for the court.
So does this item need more contemplation, legal
Perhaps.
contemplation?
From my perspective, I guess, and perhaps I did not think through the wording as carefully as I should have. What is now action item B in this list, from my perspective, was more of the within 18 months. That was the action item that would reflect more of that. You know, any changes to the future land use must be reflected in the zoning map. That would be taken care of with action item B. And as we've discussed before, we have not proposed any changes to the future land use that would necessitate change to the zoning map. So from our perspective, action item A was really just putting the zoning map in more of that graphical format, which I guess in more of our day-to-day planning lingo is just more commonly thought of as parcel-based, just because we typically just use that as a standard baseline for a lot of the data that we use. But if that's certainly language that I can tweak and work with Glenn on, or can modify as you see fit.
Why don't I task you both with looking at that again and coming back with, for those 2 bullet points.
Are we the only city that doesn't, do other cities use parcel-based in Sussex County?
I think the majority, and Laura may know better, but I think the majority, if not all other municipalities in the state, use the county's data.
So is this action item intended to benefit the city?
Well, I think that, I mean, I personally think that you as a city need to update your zoning map. It's been over a decade, and there are Oak Grove Motor Court and other places that aren't reflected on the zoning map, so it needs to be updated. The question is, does it need to be updated starting with the county's parcel layer and then laying our zoning on top of it? Or is there some other mechanism that works better for the?
That sounds like not a review, that sounds like an evaluation of what needs to be done. This action item to me stated more emphatically it needed to be done. What I hear from you is that that's an evaluation. I could be mishearing that.
I think it partially is. I do think perhaps you could use the county's data to show the parcels. And again, disclaimers on everything that the city doesn't necessarily agree with those parcel boundaries, but we're using the county's data because that's the official record.
To me, we do need an evaluation of this. We need a legal review of pros and cons and what's going to happen if we do it, maybe some real-life examples. Because here we were potentially fooling with people's lot lines.
Well, that's what I was wondering. Where does this go?
So this is heavy duty. So again, if you all would work on something to resolve this and what we need to do to put in the CDP, and then beyond that, give us some ideas on how to approach this.
Maybe it's broken into two, which is basically review and update the zoning map, and then so that's a must do. And then step two is evaluate the benefits and non-benefits of using the county's data.
Okay, so leave that to you.
And I think I mentioned this the last time also, but in the evaluation, if you'd also consider, because the county is, excuse me, now doing a reassessment process. So, and obviously that involves an appeals option for both, as we do with taxes for the city, but the county will also do that. So that may be an opportunity to bring these other issues to light. Again, just consideration of the county reassessment in the evaluation process of this.
I did look to see how other communities had addressed the revaluation process.
Got it.
And since 2019, 14 communities have been through the PLUS process to submit their draft comprehensive plans to PLUS for their review. Not one has mentioned the reassessment revaluation in any way, shape, or form, including Sussex and Newcastle counties. So,
Talk about it is not there, right?
Very good, thank you. So we've got tasks assigned. We'll move on to the next item.
yes, we are in Chapter 5. Chapter 5 is Housing and Economic Development. On page 5-14, here again, we made a change to the title of Appendix B, so that now reads References and Resources. On page, that same change was made on page 5-16 as well.
What was that, 515?
On both of those pages.
516, okay.
And then on page 5-21, action item M, there was a question that was brought up. An action item, it reads, consider development of a tourism management plan for the city. So the question during One of our previous discussions was basically where that came from. That actually stemmed from a comment that Commissioner Gay provided on draft number 3, so several draft iterations ago. So in the track changes version, I copied and pasted the information that she had provided to us there in that section. And at the very end of that comment, her recommendation was that the CDP should include a tourism management plan as an action item to go along with the many desirable actions already included. And that was an item that was discussed at the January 14th joint meeting of the Mayor and Commissioners and Planning Commission. And that meeting, it was decided to add it to the list of implementation items for this chapter.
Lauren, thank you for going back and finding that. I frankly had forgotten about it, so it was nice to
Not
read
a
it all
problem
again.
at all.
It was like reading something new.
I'm fine with it.
Yeah, yeah.
However, I think the explanation needs to be embedded somewhere in the content, because without this explanation here, I think people are thinking it's a tourism department.
Right, yeah, I mean, you said that at the last
Which is
meeting.
a totally
Yeah,
different
correct.
thing.
And it's
so-
complex, because it brings, there's several different factors there, including the 2020 update that pointed out the issue. So,
I mean, could that be elevated to a city position at the very beginning? But somewhere, I think it needs to, even if it's condensed from what's written here, I'd like to see it included if we're going to include that mention of the tourism management plan.
yeah, it is different from the other city positions that are there, so it probably could be made into a brief city position if that's what you'd want. I mean, I can work with Lauren on the wording if that's what you want to do.
And just a note, the city positions, those are directly addressing the items that are requirements by the state that we address.
Oh,
So
okay.
there are a number of items that we have to address per state code. So those are what the positions refer to. So I can,
Other place for it then?
I mean, we could, craft a, brief, 1 to 2 paragraphs on tourism or something like that. I mean, I think that fits in nicely under economic development.
Okay, and just add a heading, you mean, for, okay, yeah,
If
that's fine.
If
That's
that's
fine.
amenable
If
to
everybody's
everyone.
amenable, if
yeah.
Susan, you would
I'll
work
her
with
on that.
Lauren on
Yeah,
condensing
okay.
the word, language, and then finding a place to insert it.
Okay.
Be all right? That makes more sense to me then. Okay. Chapter 6, Transportation and Infrastructure.
On page 6-3, the paragraph underneath table 6-1, in 3 separate places, we added the phrase per day so that it's clear that the number of vehicles are per day, reflecting that type of vehicle count.
I have to tell you, I'm still a little bothered by this one. We had gotten some input from a citizen that basically says, there's no such thing as an average in Rehoboth, because in the summer, that average is definitely not 24,000 vehicles on Rehoboth Avenue. And I think there's a lot of truth to that. And I realize that, we didn't make a change when we talked about this the first time, but I had wanted to add, I was planning to ask maybe Carol Everhart if some of the data they get on visitors, because I know they get it by tracking vehicles, if there's any sort of seasonal data there, because I take the point that this average is really meaningless when it comes to considering the season. So.
Well, before our next meeting, can you
Yeah, I can try to-
check
I'll-
with
yeah,
Carol and
I will do that.
let's address it so that we can resolve it
Okay.
at the next meeting? Thank you. where are we, on 6.4 maybe?
On 6.4, under the, I guess, related to the paragraph on Lake Avenue Streetscape Improvements Phase 2, we added the phrase "as well as Second Street from Rehoboth Avenue to Olive Avenue."
The edit there, as well as Second Street from Rehoboth Avenue to Olive Avenue. Doesn't seem to jive with the second bullet, Maryland Avenue and Second Street from Olive Avenue to, does that read all right to you, Evan?
I think maybe just removing the reference to Maryland Avenue.
At the second bullet.
Yeah, Second Street from Olive Avenue to Rehoboth Avenue.
Yeah, right.
So, delete at the second bullet, Maryland Avenue and that way the balance of that reflects the written word up above.
So I'm sorry, on the bullets below, just delete Maryland Avenue and, so it would just read Second Street from?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. On page 6-5, and I should note, many of these changes came from Evan and Kevin Williams, so we've incorporated their updates to these sections. So here, the paving program, this was changed to the annual paving program. And we struck the section and 150,000 for water main replacement, for repair and pavement to local streets to be. So we basically removed the sections that were referring to prior fiscal years, and updating some of the bullets in the lower section there. And again, updating to reflect the fiscal '23 information.
I guess one question I have about the fiscal '23 information is, there's only two there. Are those going to be added to and they're just not known yet? Or are those the only 2 streets being done this year?
I believe they're the only 2 being done this year because Scarborough Avenue is a pretty significant
Okay,
undertaking.
so it's just,
yeah.
okay.
On page 6-7, under the water taxi eco tours, we changed the word pier to dock.
I have a question about this one in that the second paragraph talks about that at the meetings last summer, we authorized the city manager to enter in contracts with 2 parties for motorized and non-motorized recreation service. My understanding is that the non-motorized is not happening this year, correct? And, but the motorized is, and I just didn't know if we should update that or if new requests for proposals were going out on for the non-motorized or just what's happening there.
Well, you know, it hadn't happened yet, so I'm fine with leaving it at it.
I think it's still worthwhile keeping it in there only because at some point in the future, I think there will be interest to do a non-motorized service. Just for this year, there was still some logistics that had to be worked out by the company, so.
Sure a neat picture.
And then an update on the taxi service as well. I've been in contact with Cape Water Tours over the weekend, and we're planning to execute that agreement this week.
They've already started doing them, though, haven't they?
Not to my knowledge. They in the agreement, it said that they would start no later than Memorial Day. So I don't know if they were running any trips this weekend, but the agreement hasn't been authorized yet. I know they're advertising for it, though.
Yeah, yeah.
On page 6-8, we updated some language here and to shifted some of this around in part because of a request to enlarge the figures of figure 6 dash 1, which showed the ADA service areas. So to enlarge those and make them make sense with where they were showing up with the text, we just moved some of the language around just so it would flow a little bit better, make more sense. So that's why some of the language looks like it changed, but it actually didn't. Now, that being said, the section on the DART bus, the second paragraph regarding bus route 201, this section was updated to reflect the comment that the city received from DART on that route. They provided several bullet points and asked us to revise that section. Then here on pages 611 and 612, these are the two enlarged figures. These may be the two of the
These are
figures
the
that
worst ones out of focus. Yes, please.
I will see if I can find if I can find figures that are clearer.
Help by reaching out to DART, see if they can provide these in a larger format.
Oh, I can certainly certainly reach out to them. I'm just I'm trying to think of the original source for these and whether they were I guess the size that they were originally created. But we can certainly obtain them, and if they are available at a better resolution, we will include them.
Thank you.
And here we had originally included both figures as just one figure, so we separated them out so they now reflect two figures with their own distinct names. Let's see. And on page 6-13, although that paragraph on Delaware Commute Solutions looks like there's a change, this again was just a relocation of that paragraph to reflect the enlarged figures. The section on the proposed intracity transit, this is new language based on the requested addition that we discussed last time, so those 3 paragraphs are new. On page 614, we updated some language, spaces, not species. Updated the figure number. Page 616. We added some language here just to note that the diagram describing the level of traffic stress and the figure on the right page go together, and they should be used together. So just describing them, since we enlarged that figure. To do so, it made, to us at least, it made a little bit more sense to provide the diagram description as more of a standalone, so that you could see more of that larger map, which is shown on the screen at the moment. On page 6-21, we added a sentence just noting that accessible curb ramps and sidewalks are incorporated into the paving program each year. And we relocated the paragraph on Gordon's Pond Trail to reflect the change in layout due to the enlarged figures.
Lauren, I've got a question
Sure.
on this page. This is under the heading pedestrian and bicycle initiatives. Last,
What page are you on?
620.
I'm,
Okay, thank you.
last year, the Homeowners Association developed a map and safety tip brochure. Should we mention that in this section? I know that the Streets and Transportation Committee is recommending that the city adopt that as something official. Is it worth mentioning here, or should we just hold off on it?
Do we have any indication if that is going to be done on a consistent annual basis, or is this a one-time deal?
Well, I don't think there's much that would need to be changed in the brochure on an annual basis, but the Homeowners Association has asked for, and the Streets and Transportation Committee has recommended to the city that we take that over and print those brochures and make them available. Since they put it together, the police have been using them, and it is on our city website. If there's not a strong opinion, we can leave it out. I just wanted to at least mention it.
Fold-out map you're talking about, it folds up to a little square.
No, it's a
Okay.
trifold. Not hearing anything, we'll just leave it out for
I
now.
think it'd be fine to include it. I guess if the city's going, do we know for sure if the city's going to be printing it and distributing it every year?
There's a bike map, if that's one.
That's different.
Yeah, that's one that Lingo published.
No, that's something yet to be discussed.
Okay, well then.
Funding it, who's doing it, who's taking control of it, designing it, getting it produced. So maybe hang tight with it.
All right, we'll leave it out for now.
Thank you. So Lauren, you were on 621, I think?
On 626, we enlarged the figure 6-7, the Sussex County Evacuation Route map. And then on page 6-28, we struck action item E completely.
Well, we relocated that to the bottom.
My apologies, yes.
Didn't show up in
Yes.
green for some reason.
Relocated that to the bottom. We change the wording of G to consider contracting with a professional traffic engineering firm. And then added action items H, I, and J related to sidewalks and ADA compliance of sidewalks.
Yeah, kind of our assignment there was to group sidewalk action items. Okay.
630, we changed language from finished, this is underwater, from finished to treated, and changed the names of the communities from Breezeview to Breezewood, and to North Shores Community. Here again, Evan and Kevin provided some updated information to include in this chapter. So on page 635, we have an updated date for the water rate study. That new rates went into effect on April 1st, 2020. The note that came with that was that the rates that were prior to that were interim until the I guess permanent rates were fully in effect. On page 6-36, we added the bullets on the Rehoboth Beach, Henlopen Acres interconnection and Rehoboth Beach, Sussex County interconnection projects. These also were in response to comments from Sussex County, as well as Henlopen Acres. And the description of the North Shores Water Meter Replacement Program was replaced by the Maryland Avenue and Olive Avenue water main replacement project. And then we added the annual water meter replacement program description. On page 6-37, we added descriptions of the emerging contaminants evaluation and the water main and water service line replacements projects.
This is all stuff that came from Kevin. Yeah.
On page 6-39, we updated the committee name to accurately reflect that it is the Water Infrastructure Advisory Council.
We'd add in there WIAC, comma, formerly the Clean Water Advisory Council. Do you see any need to add that back in, or I think it's far enough beyond that agency where just the WIAC reference is satisfactory? Very good, thank you.
On page 6-42, the date of the new rates for the wastewater rate study was updated. The lining of sewer main on King Charles Avenue was added. Projects on page 6-43 were added, included the State Road Pump Station bypass piping, the sanitary sewer interconnection with Sussex County. That one was also in response to a county comment, and then an additional addition was the wastewater treatment plant upgrade, phase 3A. Language was updated regarding the pump station rehabilitation, sewer collection system inspection and cleaning programs, wastewater treatment plant. Not
Really
planned.
hasn't been decided yet whether we'll what the increase or increase in their metered rates, but probably probably that will happen. Once we get a stormwater utility, we'll be able to absorb some money that has been used for other things previously.
Which item is that in
It's
reference to?
on, under wastewater plant upgrades, Phase 4. Phase 4 of the wastewater treatment plant's upgrades are slated to take place FY. It's been changed to 25, 26. In-town customers will see an increase in their metered rate. Out-of-town customers will be billed for improvements based on their percentage of flow.
Change that at all?
Hasn't been decided.
Town customers
Whether,
may see an increase. Likely we'll see an increase.
if we use the stormwater money correctly, we can take $500,000 out of the general fund so that it can be used for other things, and then you can take money out of the enterprise fund and pay for that. But it's really up in the air. So yeah, you're right, Mayor. Let's do that. In-town customers may see an increase.
Okay, Evan?
FY 25, 26 is really tentative. We just hope that we can make it by that time.
Page 6-48 of the Delaware Avenue Stormwater Improvement Project, a additional clarification was added, Wilmington Avenue from 2nd Street to 1st Street. Since the Scarborough Avenue Extended Rain Garden project was completed, we relocated that to the prior section and noted the completion date. And we updated the Stormwater Basin number 40 study and design project to reference a future budget year.
It's a good move.
Excuse me. On page 6-51, annual bulk pickup, we added a reference that private companies also provide those services. We added some additional clarification regarding the yard waste section. Additional clarification regarding the recycling drop-off center and the public space recycling. And that brings us to page 6-54 and action item what had been O, which that one was struck in its entirety. And the rest of the action items were renumbered due to the prior transportation action item renumbering. Any other comments on this chapter?
I'm sorry, maybe I ozoned. I don't recall seeing in here our mention of the quote-unquote partnerships with the county. Does anybody remember seeing those? There was 2 paragraphs.
I saw that you had submitted them.
One was, both were the potential partnerships, having them take over control of a wastewater treatment plant, and then more recently, asking to buy a percentage of the outfall. Is that in there?
Discuss that and also transportation.
Well, that would be in chapter 6 somewhere,
Okay,
right?
yeah, okay, gotcha.
But,
Yeah, but you sent us what you wrote, right? You
Right,
sent us the name,
right.
Yeah, and I don't see that in here.
but I thought, Patrick, you were going to expand on what I wrote, I thought. Can you do a quick look before we go on, Lauren? Chapter 6, all I put was chapter 6, 2 paragraphs partnering with the county missing. What page is that right there? Where is it? Where is it?
39
Is that where it starts?
Yeah.
You don't see it? Let's save time and put that on our task list to do. Patrick, if you expanded it, would you resend it to Lauren and maybe me as a backup, so we've got, and then either you two work together on where to insert it, or Lauren, you look to where we can insert those 2 paragraphs. And then if you need help, reach out to Patrick and/or me. So we'll go on from that.
Is that for, because there is a sentence in the city positions that references that, working with the county. Is that something different?
That's, I think, that's maybe some multiple places in there. Work with the county on
Right.
expanding their expansion of zoning outside the city and all this. So there are different things that fit there, but we have 2 paragraphs specific to partnership. So again, let's search for that or to resolve that for the next meeting, and we'll move on to chapter 7.
-7, we reflected, excuse me, revised the language under Silver Lake to change all of the mentions of outflow to outfall. And to note that this is owned and maintained by DENREC.
Okay, are you okay with all that? That's your
I'm coming
submittal?
up to it. She said 7-7.
Yes.
7-7.
Is that true, Lauren?
Yes.
Of the PDF with the red line. This is your language that,
Yeah, and I hadn't, I read it last night, but I haven't. I think I thought it was fine. And 7-7 is, yeah, that's correct.
We also changed it to just a generic prehistoric ice age, not the last ice age.
Yeah, yeah, the last ice age was the Laurentide, and it never got this far south.
We updated the language for Lake Gerard to just more generally note that stormwater runoff and groundwater ingress were the sources of its water, although Evan did provide information that there is a natural, a spring there. So we did provide that additional sentence that he had provided to us as a follow-up.
Were we able to confirm that? Who'd you,
Todd Fritchman with Envirotech confirmed that.
I'd like to see that confirmed with a hydrologist. He said there were or were not springs.
The exact terminology that he used is included there. So he said that it does receive groundwater discharge from underground seep sources, so.
Okay.
All right, I'm fine with that. Next item, Lauren.
On page 7-13, this stems from a comment that the statewide climate action plan was actually adopted in November 2021. So the previous language just reflected that the state was working on this. So we updated this language to reflect the adoption date, but just took the basically the action areas that are provided in the executive summary of that document and listed them here, as we've similarly done with some of the other similar types, some of the similar planning type documents.
So all the language here came out of that Delaware Climate Action Plan report.
Correct.
Okay.
And the state also uses this language on their website related to this document.
Right.
Okay.
I'd like to make a comment. This is not intended to slow up this process whatsoever, but I'd like to see us consider, after this is adopted, to go in and insert electronic links to all these reports. I think this CDP is going to be around for many, many years, and I think it would be a benefit to all those that read it to be able, for instance, here, click on that Delaware Climate Action Plan and actually take you to that link. So again, I'm not asking you to do that and hold up this process or anything, but we may contact you afterwards or go through IT department or whatever to do that.
When we're doing the final version, it's very simple for us to incorporate that. So we
That'd
can
be
just
great. That'd be great.
make
Thank
that
you.
as a note to incorporate that.
I mean, there's what, 50 to 100 50-some references probably. All righty. Next page.
On page 7-17, there was a request to add the city climate action plan here. So this language was based on what the city's environment committee, their draft proposal that was discussed in May, language from that was used to help craft this section.
Very good.
Just a typo in the first dot point. Should be CSEA.
Thank you. On page 7-19, the second paragraph under the commemorative tree program, tree singular there, this language was updated with information that Commissioner Gay provided to reflect the amount of donations from the program's inception through the end of May of this year. Again, apologies for the confusion in our emails back and forth over the weekend. Continuing on to the next page were the revisions to the Tree City USA discussions. These were updated to reflect the 2022 events, as well as the city's first designation, which occurred in 1988. And the city has had 31 designations, has missed a few years here and there, but not too many since that first time.
I do have a correction here on page 720, and I noticed it was updated to include the 2022 celebration, and you have the pictures up there holding that Tree City sign. You have the mayor and others in that picture, and you have the 3 pictures on that line. The one beneath it is actually from, it should just be deleted because that's from last year. I mean, I can tell because the mayor's wearing a completely different outfit, and it's a sunny day, and it was not this year. So I know that was.
That's actually
No,
part of the track changes.
I brought 2 outfits.
Okay.
So only,
Oh, okay,
only
so that's
those,
supposed to come out.
correct, so
Oh,
only
okay, I
those,
couldn't
only
tell that.
those 3
Sorry.
in the
Right.
line are the ones that are intended.
Okay, all right.
That one at the bottom was part of the previous.
Okay, that's the
Draft.
disadvantage of only looking at the track one. Okay, thanks.
Mhm.
Yep. And on 722, did you just move that stuff about the tree tenders program, or what happened there? Because that's kind of,
Yes, I think, I'm pretty sure this, again, was just to page formatting, just to make
Okay,
everything
that's fine.
fit nicely.
not sure that's going to.
I don't know if everybody's familiar with all the conventions in red line that red, and you can vary this, but for me, the way I have it set up is red and strike through means delete, and blue and underline means add, and then if it's in green underline, it actually means it's been relocated. So you've deleted somewhere, it's somewhere, and then reinstalled it elsewhere.
Then we move to page 7-27. So this is table 7-22. So here I wasn't sure if I'd made the cut to get this revised version to you before you printed or not. So I did provide a printed copy of the clean version of this in what I handed out to you.
This one, right?
The map, as well as you should also have this table. So this is just a table showing the city parks inventory. So this is something that Evan and Liz discussed, and then Evan and I discussed after that and updated. And then this also should match the revised map 10, which you also should have a hard copy of that that I handed out this morning as well. Second on that one.
My only question on this one is I thought number 9, Stokely Park, in parentheses, it's Country Club Estates Park. I thought we were discussing that most people call it Silver Lake Park.
Is, Evan, is the parentheses Country Club Estates designed to be an alternative name for that park, or is it more descriptive of the geography?
It's an alternate name.
And we used the consistent wording that's in the definition of park for chapter 195. I think that's Country Club Estates, the way it's identified in the zoning map. Yeah. That's right.
And where is West Lawn Park? Well, I'm sorry, maybe I should look at the map. Off
VFW.
State Road. Okay, West Lawn Park, near the VFW, and backing up to the rear of the Verizon property and some of those other properties. Okay.
So that one did not already have a description identified with it, so if there is an alternative description that you would like, please let us know. It was somewhat difficult using aerial and Google Maps to best figure out the best description of that, other than it being a heavily treed heavily treed park.
I know you and Evan spent a lot of time on the phone doing this, so thank you for your time. I think it looks, I think it's right on, resolving the park next to Silver Lake. Resolving where Cranberry Park is. Now I have to unlearn what I've been telling people for 22 years, where Cranberry Park is. It doesn't go into the finger
Right.
anymore, right?
And we had actually just recently gotten a survey back of that park, so.
The survey said Girard Park. Mm-mm-mm.
7-31. For table 7-3, we did not make substantive changes to this. We just changed the formatting to make it look a little bit more like some of the other tables that we've used elsewhere in the chapter.
731.
And then for the Lake Girard Playground project, we just changed that to be present tense. And on page 7-32, we updated the list of ongoing and future projects based on the discussion we had last week.
Question about that. Because we added citywide park master planning, but since that's been added, then should Lake Girard Park master planning come out? Because if it's citywide, then it seems redundant to call one of them out when there's going to be an evaluation of all of them. Right.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah.
Evan's fine with it? Okay, so Lauren will remove that third bullet, I guess it would be.
And then on page 7-33, this whole section on the plastic straw elimination campaign was added.
Looks accurate descriptive-wise, so I think it should be fine.
So this was based on the information that Evan sent, which I believe came from the website, just wordsmithed slightly to reflect more the document versus website aspect.
Yeah, Ed, you're okay with that?
Yeah, yeah.
Very good, as chair of the Environment Committee, thank you. Next.
On page
Over here.
7-37, the last paragraph of the electric vehicle charging stations, we struck the specific locations that were listed. And on 7-38, we struck the last 2-3 sentences of the first paragraph under dark sky community.
Jay, that's to address your desire.
That's accurate.
Thank you.
Then on page 7-39, we made modifications to action item C. We changed that to read, continue to implement and evaluate Silver Lake and Lake Gerard sustainability and recovery efforts. We added action items E and we added action item E, and we split a previous action item. So now this action item F just reads, investigate how to fund new and replacement street trees. The other section of that related to sidewalks, so that is handled in Chapter 6. We added action item I about a climate action plan for the city. Item M, we added the word additional. Item N was to consider adopting standards for dark sky-like lighting. Prior item L was the one that was split. And then item Z was the item that was tweaked related to the Resilient Community Partnership Plan. So the language that is used more accurately reflects the language that is found in that recommendation.
On action item C,
C?
C,
See?
C, can you help me, anybody, continue to implement and evaluate Silver Lake and Lake Gerard sustainability and recovery efforts? Those verbs, implement and evaluate, are they in reverse order?
Yes.
Probably, yeah.
Because I was going to ask the follow-up of exactly what is the sustainability and recovery effort on Silver? I think I know what it is on Gerard.
The Corps of Engineers is doing a study of it right now, and we'll hear.
So Lauren, you'll just change the sequencing there, continue to evaluate and implement. Is that all right with you?
Yes, I was just anticipating it might
Okay.
come up in the public
Yeah,
hearing,
sure.
public discussion.
And that phrase is really accurate and well-written. Once you turn it around, once you erase those, move those around. I'm sure there's a better way to wordsmith in may not even need to use the words dark sky. You might be able to talk about conservative conservation of light pollution or diminishing light pollution or controlling light
For ease,
pollution.
let's just leave it alone. You mind, we just,
Say again, you want to,
let's just leave it alone. The dark sky like thing?
can do if you want.
Yeah. Lauren, are we ready for chapter 8?
On page 8-2, we updated the map numbers to reflect the correct numbers. the highlighted July 2022 there, we'll make sure that that is, that in the very final version reflects the correct certification month. On page 8-3, this update here, this language update is based on the conversation we had last week, but also we received a copy of this questionnaire, so we had that at the forefront to know the actual questions that are asked. It's the same 3 questions with maybe one or two that change. So we thought just reflecting more so the language used on that would be appropriate. So this was revised to reflect that. And then the latter 2 paragraphs there were revised to reflect the makeup of those meetings that were deemed appropriate during last week's discussion. And then the remaining updates reflect the modifications from the topic chapters that we've already discussed. So any revisions that we've identified today, we'll make sure that those get updated both in the topic chapters, here in Chapter 8, and in Chapter 1.
So where are we headed to? Appendix?
In Appendix A, page AA2, we added acronyms for the Cape Henlopen Senior Center, the Elementary and Secondary Education Act, the Rehoboth Art League, Rehoboth Elementary School, and the Water Infrastructure Advisory Council, and we removed the acronym for the Clean Water Advisory Council. In Appendix B, page 5, we updated the paragraph above the historical markers figures to reflect the 5 markers within city limits and the 2 that are awaiting placement.
I'm sorry, what page are you on?
AB 5.
AB 5. Okay. Yeah, this reflects 5 within the city limits and 2 additional pending placement. Okay.
On page AB 9, Commissioner Gay provided updated language for Rehoboth Elementary School.
And where did you get that information? Just
National Public Schools or something?
The National Blue Ribbon School Program, which is part of the U.S. Department of Education.
which you attributed at the
Correct.
end of the paragraph. Thank you.
And this is where that National Elementary and Secondary Education Act acronym came in. And then on page AB 26, we updated table AB 5-3 to reflect the current number of full-time employees by department. Should be the very last page.
20. And you furnished updated numbers? Okay. Do we make reference of seasonal hires?
We do not.
Need to? Do we want to? Anybody?
I think when you start getting into, it's easy for us to identify the number of seasonal employees, but then when we have to go back and add that information for all of these other employers, I think that could be a little bit more challenging to get.
Off then? Okay.
On to Appendix C. On page AC-2, we added a note that the information is limited to that was collected during the Planning Commission interviews or questionnaire submissions and are presented as they were provided. For each of the questionnaire submissions or interviews, we added a line to reflect the point of contact, so the person who is providing the information on behalf of the organization, as well as the date that the interview took place or the questionnaire was submitted. The only change to this will be the let's see, Rehoboth Beach Main Street. The version that I had in my files did not have the contact name, so I reached out to Rachel Macha to obtain that, and she did email me back. So I do have that, and we'll update that name.
Well, for me, the point of contact need to be reviewed and look at the point of doing it. For instance, the Animal Issues Committee, the point of contact is a former commissioner that chaired it. And we have a new commissioner. So I don't know the value of having old information in there.
Well, I should say point of contact is the person who provided the information.
That's not what to me, point of contact is who do I contact to receive more information on this topic? That's how I read point of contact versus information furnished by.
But in this context, it provides a date in which that point of contact provided the information.
Or why can be information provided by Richard Byrne, May 22nd, 2020. Does anybody agree or disagree about point of contact?
I think it should be updated. Otherwise, it's just, well, as Ed said, it's just who gave the information.
So maybe instead of point of contact, we just call it source.
I think that's what's wrong with it, because point of contact really does lead you to think, oh, if I want to verify something, this is who I contact. So I think that's exactly right.
Well, and I said information provided by, and you're more concise, the source.
Exactly.
So source.
Do we want a point of contact in there, or do we want to know who provided the information?
No, because then you have to update it. And I don't think we want to be in that business.
Google can provide a point of contact for anything.
I think the only,
is the wording in the blue box red? Or is it just red because of the red line convention? Because I
the
can't,
latter, it's only red because it was an addition.
so you think it'll be
It is
white
black.
maybe or black?
It
Okay,
is, yes.
I
And
can't,
it won't show up as, it-
I
it-
just can't read the red, that's all.
It shows up as white on the clean copy.
thank you. The only other change, I believe was in the section, the Rehoboth Art League section, so that's on page AC-28. This was
Hold on,
the,
AC 28.
it, the original comment was related to the debut of a recently acquired sculpture and the 2021 Boardwalk Arts Festival. So we added an editorial note at the request, the discussion last week, that the sculpture is already in place and the Arts Festival has since been relocated to Grove Park and is known as the Grove Park Arts Festival.
What did we decide to do about the point of contacts?
Source.
Source, okay, fine, yeah.
There were no changes to Appendix E or F. Those are pending. We did not make any changes to Appendix D. Those are pending, and we will be making those. However, those are going to be reflective of the city's plus response letter, which you were all emailed a copy of those this morning, and you all have a hard copy version of those before you.
So what would be our program here on out? Do you want to go over the plus comments and the plus responses for our response, or what would be our next step?
Well, I guess it's however you would prefer to review them. So each of the responses reflects the current way that the plus comment has been addressed within draft number 8, which is the current draft that that you have before you. So this is the standard format that we use on all of our plus response letters, just providing a brief introductory letter. You can use what we've provided as a draft or use something more to your liking, but then getting into the actual comments, we have copied and pasted the plus comments, which are in the black text, and then in red bold text provided a response with how we have addressed the item. Yes.
The red text,
Yes.
elaborated on that.
That wa-
Is it just something you pick up from other documents, or was there a discussion? I'm just trying to get a grasp of where did the language come from?
So we drafted the red text, but it is based on what is in, it's based on how the comment may or may not have been addressed in draft number 8. But the original plus comments came in response to draft number 5. I apologize, I'm not meaning to overcomplicate this. So we sent out draft number 5. That's the version that Plus reviewed. They sent in their Plus comments, and that was the version that the Planning Commission provided. We made our recommendations about how to respond to the comments, and the Planning Commission ultimately provided their guidance on how they wanted us to address them. So we took all of that, and that's what resulted in draft number 6, I believe it was draft number 6, but ultimately whatever the version was that we ended up transmitting to you. So between that version and any changes that you made to those comments that resulted in draft number 8, the red bold comments reflect that current status.
Well, and the only reason I asked is because it sounds like it's an extremely organized, well-vetted way to respond to their comments. So what I'm trying to figure out is what benefit would I bring to it? Am I just missing something?
Well, I think in part, we want to make sure that there aren't any of these comments that you disagree with how the comment was addressed. This is a ridiculous example, but so the second comment on page 2 is page 4-11 references table 84-1, which was not included. Our response is this reference has been updated to accurately reflect table AB 4-1. If you disagree with that for whatever reason, this would be, you say, no, that's not right. It's actually table AB 5-1, or you think we should remove the table. Just an example.
That's an easy one.
That's an easy one. I'm just using that as an example. There are some other ones that it was decided not to revise the narrative for whatever reason. So if you want some additional language, if you want to address it, or I think those are the ones where it's more a question of whether you are satisfied with how the response has been handled.
Are there any that were a struggle of these?
I don't think there were any that were debated or there were conflicting responses. There were some that the Planning Commission opted not to address for whatever reason, and the city does not have to address them. They can choose not to. The ones that have to be addressed have been addressed. So it's really if those optional ones, if you want to address them and they haven't been already, those are the ones that I think are maybe the ones to take another look at.
Those would be the ones that say noted, essentially, thanks, right? Yeah, okay.
Well, I believe that we should be the final arbiters of what the response are, so I think we need to have the opportunity to look through this, understanding that for the public hearing, what we need is the final CDP draft ready to go. In terms of this document and the response, seeing as we just got it today, and it's not needed for that public hearing, correct? This response and our okay to this response are due before we submit the approved CDP, correct? So in other words, we don't have to resolve this today. If we want more time, we can take this up at our next meeting. That, I think, gives everybody time to look through and choose to respond or not.
Correct. And just the process for this in particular. So once we take this letter and we will, or maybe not this letter, but whatever the final version of the letter is, we will submit this with the quote unquote final draft of the CDP back to state planning. They will take a look at the responses and make sure that the certification items have been addressed, and make sure there aren't any, there isn't anything that is, there aren't any like red flags or any items that would trigger a re-review, which, as we've discussed, our modifications are very minor. And then the state planning will write a letter that basically says the city has addressed all of the certification requirements, and you can go ahead and adopt the draft subject to the governor's certification. I forget the exact language. I believe it's on the last page of the plus letter that I've also provided a copy of that for you. And then once we receive that back, then you can go ahead and adopt the ordinance. And then we just go ahead and send it back to the state, and state planning writes up a pretty detailed report, sends that off to the governor, and it waits for him to read the report and sign off on it.
Very good. Well, I entered this meeting based on the assumption that we don't need to resubmit anything to Plus, which would be due tomorrow. And if you recall at the last meeting, we tasked you, Lauren, with double checking and triple checking to make sure that, yes, nothing proposed as of last meeting, and I would suggest as of this meeting, rise to the level to require us to resubmit to Plus. Can you confirm that? Or so we're okay. Tomorrow's our deadline, and we're not taking any action because we feel comfortable with what will be submitting. Very good. So we've just deferred on the Plus responses till a next meeting. At this point, unless the commissioners have anything else they want to discuss of the CDP, Lauren, I think we're generally done. Then what I'd like to do is act on two things. One is agreeing that the next meeting for the CDP, we would defer on the one at 2 o'clock today, and schedule a CDP meeting for June 7th at 9 a.m. With the understanding that the Stormwater Task Force has a meeting at 1, and we would certainly have priority and bump them if something happened. But I expect that, look, 9, it's 2.5 hours now, that on the 7th that we would be finished in under 2 hours. So I think we would be fine, in which case I have to post that agenda today, if that's all right.
Mayor, just a clarification. I have a couple of things I'm going to be working with Lauren on, and I will not be here on the 7th. I'll be out of town that day,
Right.
so I'll just make sure that she has those ahead of time, and I think they're pretty self-explanatory. So.
Well, let's talk about that. We've assigned a lot of tasks. Our next meeting has to be noticed today, published today. I want to get support documents embedded in the agenda by that Friday the 3rd. So that means everybody that has tasks needs to work with Lauren and get everything resolved by the evening or close of business on the 2nd. If you happen to run into trouble, then please contact me. But again, I'm very much want to fill in the blanks and supply the support documents. Any questions about the meeting on the 7th? That was already one of our scheduled meetings, by the way.
Clear on what the expectation is on the 7th, Mayor. It's just to validate that the final changes that we've talked about today are incorporated.
Correct. And I didn't write all the tasks down, but there's under a
Right.
dozen tasks. There's
Right.
under a dozen items. It could be a half hour to an hour meeting. I don't know.
Right.
I say that and I'll jinx us, but so the point is it will likely be a short meeting.
Will we also be reviewing and certifying that we agree with the draft responses?
Yes, yes, and also we will be addressing the draft responses, so that, whatever time that takes. So I don't expect it again to be a very long meeting. I think we've done our homework and we've devoted a good amount of time to this. I thank everybody for doing that. With that,
If I could actually interject, my
yes,
apologies.
go ahead.
We did not directly discuss any of the maps. I just wanted to verify that there were no changes to the maps that were
Well, let's look through them.
needed.
Well, let's look.
Map, there was a tweak on the.
Well, other than I should say the maps that are in this format, so
these
at
on
the
the
end of the
screen?
chapters. I did notice, or I guess one
3-.
that I want to in particular point out, map number 4, which is the city's zoning map.
What page
It
you
is-
looking at there? 4-.
21, I think. So it would have been asked to add the standard nomenclature to this. So I put this on the, added our standard footer, which ended up looking something to this effect. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone was all right with the way that was represented.
Tim, could you hand that map to Glenn, please?
We did not make any changes to the content of the map. We just basically took the PDF and put a footer, the standard footer on it, and added the note about was it the Jones Lane subdivision that was requested?
Chapter what again?
This map does not reflect the Jones Lane subdivision, it's actually the Oak Road subdivision, right?
Oak Grove, Joan Lane's, what page was this? I'm sorry.
Right.
Yeah, it's a subdivision that has Jones Lane, but it's actually called the Oak Grove
Right.
subdivision. Does that make sense?
What page is that? Or is there a?
It's map 4 on page 4-21, I think.
Is the message really saying it doesn't reflect the subdivision, or it doesn't reflect Jones Lane? Because Jones Lane is not. Jones Lane's right here somewhere. What is that message exactly supposed to convey to us? That Jones Lane is not depicted? Or something in reference to the Jones Lane subdivision?
I don't think it's a subdivision, is it? We never named it.
Right, yeah.
It's Oak Grove is what it's kind of.
Or is it really to reflect that Jones Lane is not?
I thought that was what it was meant to say. It's just that Jones Lane is not on the map. Because you say the parcels are there, right? Or not?
I think, I mean, is it here?
No, it's,
Right about here.
yeah, it's in here.
If your eyes are, strain your eyes.
Oh, yeah, there,
You can
yeah.
see.
There
That one
you can
shows
see how it was divided up with lots on both sides as
Right.
opposed to the long.
Right, so the zoning map has never been updated. when
Right.
Yeah.
So what do you want to say? What should it say? The map does not reflect.
Well, it does not reflect Jones Lane and adjacent properties? I mean, because they're all the ones that,
We can't say newly dedicated because we dedicated the street, right? I mean, that was
Right.
creating that.
And to say that the parcels aren't shown probably isn't correct either, because there's probably other parcels that
oh, yeah,
Well, if,
that's true.
if that map hasn't been updated since, was it 2010, would it be accurate to say that it doesn't reflect subdivisions that have occurred since 2010, since that date?
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Glenn, can we task you with one more thing to tell Lauren what the exact language should be?
Yeah, yeah.
The definition of that.
That's the kind of the umbrella phrase.
It is. I think whether, I'll look at the zoning guys, I said, okay, sure, we need to have all of them.
I think that and other than the neighborhood maps, that map and the city parks map were the only ones where we had made revisions. The only other logistics question that I had was making these handful of tweaks. Do you want this to just be a revision to draft number 8, or do you want this to be draft number 9?
I think since we've had version 7, we've updated it to version 8 red line. I would prefer that version 8 red line is accepted. And then any of the changes that were made today are red line version. And then I suggest that we offer as support documents the red line version of version 9 for us and the public, and then a clean version 9. And unless anybody wants it, I think she could omit all the Word documents that she's been on having accompany all our PDFs. Make it easier on her. Does anybody, so in other words, the only thing that would be in our hand for the next meeting, besides the plus comments here, would be version 8 clean, version 9 clean, and version 9 red line. Is that sufficient?
And you're not going to print anything additional,
No.
are you?
No.
Thank
If somebody wants them, we will, but otherwise, no, we're not.
Well, I already have a handful.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Any other map discrepancies or items of note? If not, then I think we've done a good job. We're about ready to go. We've got hopefully a shorter meeting at the next time to go over any of the changes and tasks that came out of today. With that, I would like us to consider adopting a resolution setting a public hearing on June 28th. It is so that, again, our city clerk can have sufficient time to be able to create the ad and post it and send it to the newspaper so that we are on schedule. Glenn, are we okay to do this then? Would you mind reading? The resolution was unfortunately, I think, sent to you last night or this morning. So if anybody needs a copy, but Glenn's going to read it.
This is a resolution of the mayor and city commissioners of the city of Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, proposing that a public hearing be held on the subject of the proposed City of Rehoboth Beach 2020 Comprehensive Plan. Whereas Title 22, Section 702A of the Delaware Code provides in relevant part that a planning commission established by any incorporated municipality under this chapter shall prepare a comprehensive plan for the city or town or portions thereof as the commission deems appropriate. Whereas the comprehensive plan of the City of Rehoboth Beach was certified by the state of Delaware as of July 23rd, 2010. Whereas Title 22, Section 702E of the Delaware Code provides in relevant part that at least every 5 years a municipality shall review its adopted comprehensive plan to determine if its provisions are still relevant given changing conditions in the municipality or in the surrounding areas. The adopted comprehensive plan shall be revised, updated, and amended as necessary and readopted at least every 10 years. Whereas Title 22, Section 702F of the Delaware Code provides in relevant part that the plan shall be subject to the state review and certification process set forth in Section 9103 of Title 29. Whereas the City of Rehoboth Beach, through its Planning Commission, reviewed the 2010 Comprehensive Plan and provided an update to the State of Delaware Office of State Planning Coordination on October 21, 2015. Whereas the City of Rehoboth Beach, through the Rehoboth Beach Planning Commission and the Mayor and City Commissioners, has been actively engaged in preparing and finalizing the 10-year Comprehensive Plan update. Whereas the Mayor and City Commissioners deem it desirable to consider the question of whether it is in the public interest to adopt the proposed 2020 City of Rehoboth Beach Comprehensive Plan. Now therefore, be it resolved by the Mayor and City Commissioners in session met, a quorum pertaining at all times thereto, that a public hearing shall be held on June 28, 2022 at 9 a.m. at the Rehoboth Beach City Hall Commissioners Room, 229 Rehoboth Avenue, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, 19971, to consider the question of whether it is in the public interest to adopt the proposed 2020 City of Rehoboth Beach Comprehensive Plan. Be it further resolved that parties and interests and citizens shall have an opportunity to be heard at said public hearing. Be it further resolved that the city manager be and is hereby directed to cause a notice which shall consist of a true copy of this resolution in full or by title only to be published in an official newspaper of the City of Rehoboth Beach or a newspaper of general circulation in the city at least 15 days prior to the date set forth in this resolution for the public hearing. Be it further resolved that the city manager be and is hereby directed to post a notice and agenda of said public hearing at City Hall more than 7 days prior to the date set forth in this resolution for the public hearing. Be it further resolved that the city manager is hereby directed to post a notice of said hearing in the city's on the city's website at least 15 days prior to the date set forth in this resolution for the public hearing, and is adopted by the Commissioners of City of Rehoboth Beach, if you do, today.
Thank you very much, Glenn. So what this means, if this is a resolution is adopted, is we set a public hearing for Tuesday, June 28th, 9 a.m. What it also means, because we have set another CDP meeting for June 7th, is that the final version of the CDP that we are putting in front of the public will not be ready until as soon after the June 7th meeting as is possible. We'll get that revised and available to the public sufficient time ahead of time so that we can solicit feedback on that. Are there any questions on the motion?
Just one comment for
Yeah.
Glenn. Line 38, you're missing a period.
Yep. Okay.
Anything else? In that case, I would therefore entertain a motion to adopt the resolution as read before you, held on the subject of the proposed City of Rehoboth 2020 Comprehensive Plan, setting a public hearing for June 28th, 9 a.m., 2022 in the Rehoboth Beach City Hall Commissioners Room.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Gay and a second by Commissioner Edstronowski to adopt the resolution before us, setting a public hearing in the matter of hearing from the public on the CDP to be held June 28, 2022, 9 a.m. at the Rehoboth Beach Commissioners Room. Is there any discussion? There's nobody, members of the public here to offer their comments. So with that, we'll do a group vote. All those in favor of adopting the resolution signify. Can we do that? Just the group, the zoning matter. All those in favor signify by saying aye to adopt the resolution. Aye. All those opposed, and the motion to adopt the resolution setting a public hearing is adopted unanimously. With that, is there good of the order? Any further comments? If not, I want to thank you and remind everybody that our 2 o'clock meeting today, scheduled for continuation of CDP discussion, is canceled. And again, our next meeting will be Tuesday, June 7th at 9 a.m. Thank you very much. With that, this meeting is adjourned at 11:44 a.m. Thank you.